Welcome to your Monday. I'm J Cleveland Payne, aka your Mr. Monday, and this quick bit of motivation and inspiration was originally published on May the 9th, 2022. The original message goes as follows. There is a difference between people glad to learn the steps of sleight of hand to see how they could be fooled and those who would refuse to because it would spoil the magic. So, going deeper into this one, this is something that actually is a metaphor for what we're going through in real time at the moment right now. At least I believe it is, for people who are disbelieving some of the truths and some of the just straight up what should be facts about our political landscape. But we're not going to talk about it indirectly or directly like that. We're going to talk about it indirectly in this metaphor about magic and talk about the masked magician that the show they had. Might have been about a decade ago, maybe even further. It might have been when I was in high school. Fox, the television network, came up with a program, a series of programs that had a masked magician, a mysterious magician, a person doing sleight of hand, doing the big tricks that you remember seeing on TV, folks like David Blaine and David Copperfield back in the day. That would do, and people would be amazed by it. People go to big shows in Vegas to see it going on there, and having a person, a magician, go through the moves, first doing the full trick, and then go through it in slow motion in pieces with all the cameras at all the angles, showing how the sleight of hand works and how the manipulation works in the act, in the magician's world, to show you how they work out. What this meant for people who are always curious about how these things work out was that you got a chance to see how the trick actually works, and they were gobsmacked by the way they were fooled by the sleight of hand and things going on, and the technicality, like literal technology in the tricks to make them work out. But there was two groups of people that were upset. Number one were magicians who didn't want people knowing how the tricks worked out, which makes perfect sense because if people knew how the tricks work, they would be less mesmerized by it and less people would come and see that in theory to see what they're doing. Some people may come just to see how well they can pull it off, just like other magicians watch other magicians see how well they pull it off. But this would mean that innocent bystanders, the mere random folk, would also be coming to see not the trick being done, but how well it's pulled off. And there are people who, now that they know how the trick works out, can't put that genie back in the bottle and can't enjoy the tricks ever again because they know that there's another person in the box and they're not actually sawing someone in half and doing magic. Now, what this really does mean is there are some people who can't distinguish between the magic, the fantasy, the unreality of how people want things to be, the perfect vision, and how things really are. And once you become a person who can kind of deal with how things really are, how things work, how it actually becomes what it is, how the sausage is made, if you will, you can really come to terms with all the things that are necessary to get to that point and to deliver whatever is the product. Some people, you can't do that. Some people don't want to see the sausage being made literally. Don't want to know how a magical dish is created and how the layers and intricacy come up and how hard it is to do that. They just want to throw their money at it and keep throwing money at it. And since they're throwing money at it, they're assuming you're just going to keep making that dish, no matter how hard it is, how rare it is. And then when the prices go up, they get a little freaked out about why they're paying more for it because it's actually pretty complicated. It actually takes a lot of ingredients from around the world. It costs a lot. And in real time, as we're dealing with shortages of everything, things cost that much more. I can tell you an example of a cheap thing. My normal $10 breakfast that I go to on Sunday mornings, it'd be easy to drop $20 and walk away from it as a tip to be, kind of cool on that. I used to do that a lot when my breakfast was about $8 to $10 for simple 2-egg breakfast. Simple 2-egg breakfasts now are about $15. So the more you try to be overly generous, the more actual money it costs. And it's costing out of the way. I can't be as generous because I'm not getting a cheap breakfast and paying someone the extra effort for the small breakfast. The small breakfast costs that much more. Knowing how things work are freaking people out in the world today. Knowing how people think and in reality beyond the mask that they wear on stage is freaking people out today. Knowing what's real and what's not is becoming an issue for many people going out there. And now there are people, going political just for a second, in the world of running the world who don't want you to know how the sausage is made, don't want to know how all the levers are pulled to make things work out as well, because it makes it harder for them to rule the world. Also, there are people who don't want to know those things because it makes it hard for them to believe that everything being told to them is real. Not going to conspiracy theory at all here. Just letting you know that in a world where you can't really take everything for face value, it takes a little time to not take things for face value. It takes a little time to do some effort, put in effort to do some actual research and look at both sides of a situation and determine for yourself which way it goes. In most cases, both sides is a false argument because you know which way you want it to go. You know which way points towards your moral compass and towards your compass of compensation, what's going to really be best for you, not what is necessarily the best. Because sometimes your moral compass will tell you to not do a thing, but a little bit of greed will tell you if you do a little bit more of it, you will be fine because it'll pay off in the long run. And what's this one little thing that you're not going to do well? Let's get back to the magic metaphor to wrap this thing up. The people who watched that show that basically was there to fill time, it's a cheap way to fill time, and give Jonathan Frakes a couple of credits for his early producing products, is there that was essentially harmless. It was just something to kill time, something to put on the TV that would bring in a couple eyeballs. Anybody who didn't want to spoil the magic could just not watch the show, period. But the fact that the show existed and it was there to spoil the magic that someone could accidentally turn to in reruns or something was the issue. People who wanted to bury their heads in the sand didn't know that they might turn up and see this by accident once they pull their heads out. So because you can't keep your head buried in the sand for that long, you won't be able to breathe. You need to know if you're willing to face the facts and realize that everything that glitters is not gold. Everything presented to you is not in the best light for you, and that all the folks who are speaking to you that you look up to may not be speaking to you in full honesty. Remember, one thing I say often as I learned in media, be careful when you meet your heroes. Be careful when you meet those famous people, those famous stars that you've always admired, because chances are they're going to be either so down-to-earth boring that you'll be bored with them, or, they're having a bad day in most cases and be real jerks, and then you will be upset with them and upset for loving their stuff. There's a difference in the two people. Remember that and figure out which one you are. And be prepared to hold your breath for a long time if you're the second part. There is a difference between people glad to learn the steps of sleight of hand to see how they could be fooled and those who would refuse to because it would spoil the magic. This original message was published on May the 9th, 2022 from Welcome to Your Monday. For more messages like this one, plus books, merchandise, and other information related to this project, visit the website, welcometoyourmonday.com.